All right.
With me. You ready?
We're ready.
Yeah, do I share my cam or what?
Not yet. I'll kick you over there, Mark.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. Welcome everyone to our webinar on behalf of the old Schoolhouse, schoolhouseteachers.com. We are so excited that Mark is here from Mr. Mark's classroom. My name is Cindy, and I am the Community Relations Manager. We're excited to hear what Mr. Mark has to teach us tonight. Let's open with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this opportunity to get together tonight, and I pray that you bless our meeting, help us to learn more about them and how to bring them up in your ways. And I thank you for Mr. Mark and his willingness to help us and teach us. And I pray that him and his ministry. I pray that we will all have good internet tonight and be able to hear the words that he has for us. And I thank you for those that are in attendance. Help us to have learned and to use it and to glorify you in what we do, families. Amen. Mr. Mark, today.
Hey, friends. I'm
Hello,
trying to see, are we on here?
I'm glad you're here. I'll introduce you here. Mr. Mark is the children's pastor at Quail Springs Baptist Church in Oklahoma City, and he has founded Mr. Mark's. That's an online resource for teachers, and he has a lot of information. Mr. Mark, you've been teaching parents and teachers all over the country.
That's
and
right.
we are here today. In fact, you have a book that came out last week. Tell us about your book.
Yeah, it's just right off the press. It's actually called 31 Days to Finding Your Kids Ministry Mojo. And I have a lot of friends who are in children's ministry, preschool and children, and they're like, am I doing this right? Is this everything that is this right? And I remember one time I was saying to my pastor, this is early years, and I said to him, hey, could you let me know anything you see I'm doing right, because that would help me a lot. And he said, sure, as soon as I see something. He never did. It was horrible. And I'm just saying that a lot of our children's ministers, if they're lay people or even if they're paid, are not getting any feedback. Is this right? So I found myself really just like trying to make everybody happy, like just making sure everybody liked me or whatever. And that really wasn't accomplishing the great stuff we could have been doing if I'd had better leadership as a young minister. And so anyway, that's why I put together this 31-day challenge. And that is to just read a few pages a day. And I've got 3 questions. And then you can figure out you are doing it right. You do have your feet under you, and feel the affirmation to keep pressing on and doing great stuff. So that's why the 31 Days to Finding Your Kids Ministry Mojo.
Excellent. Well, why don't you take it away, Mr. Mark, and tell us some good stuff.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask just a technical question here. Can I make my screen bigger, or
did you activate your webcam, Mark?
How about no?
I see you.
You do?
I do.
Okay, great. Well, I just clicked something and it went away. So I'm not sure where to do that. Can anybody tell me?
What are you trying to do?
I said, share my webcam, and then it went away.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, and it
should be
now.
there.
I moved something. I see it now. Thanks.
And there should be a little button for everyone to enlarge, Mr. Mark.
Yeah, I see all this now. How nice. Okay, great.
Is everyone seeing him?
All right.
Okay, because I am not seeing you.
Well, you're not seeing
I am.
And I see our startup. Wow, it just got big right then.
Yeah.
I don't see the chat buttons anymore, so you'll have to tell me if somebody has a question. Okay?
Yes, we'll handle that.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Hey, let's talk about the 8 ways that younger children learn, because we often are not engaging correctly with our children whenever they're trying to learn the information, and we're presenting it in a way that they're not ready for. So first of all, let me just kind of walk through a little bit of background, and I'll do this in kind of like a nutshell, so that way you can not be overwhelmed or anything. Eric Jensen, a terrific author who will discuss with you about cognitive engagement and emotional engagement and physical engagement and social engagement. And then I'm going to add one, spiritual engagement, because all of these are parts of the child's formation. And each one of these are a different area. And I like to tell people all the time, like spiritual engagement, think about spiritual formations like this. Our children are gathering information. They're hearing their parents say what they believe. They're hearing their parents pass on their faith. So parent, if you are saying to your children, okay, it's time to pray, you need to go a little farther with that. You need to say, all right, let's pray because I know God hears my prayers. And when you say that, you're passing on your faith. And so I want to challenge you to pass on your faith, simply answering the question, why? Because when you answer that question, then your children have really something to hold on to, not just a chore, get this done. And we want to pass on our faith. So my challenge is for you to do that. That's first, because they're gathering this information. They're gathering it from their church. They're gathering it from their peers. I know. And whatever information they're gathering, they're like, if you will, I don't want to simplify this too much to insult you, but think of it like a bookshelf. And they are gathering and putting stuff on this bookshelf little by little in different places. And while it goes on this bookshelf, it starts filling in all over. And as it fills in, things are becoming more clear. Oh, that's in the wrong place. That goes here. That is the sequence here. And they are getting lots of things figured out. And at some point, there's enough information that has been gathered in Bible literacy, in the faith walk of those they've witnessed, that the Holy Spirit says, look, here's the problem. You're apart from me. And Jesus gave you this gift. It's time for you to decide. Do you want this gift of salvation? And as the Holy Spirit reveals that to the child, all this information that's in place, now he or she can respond to that. And so our information that we're giving them is all part of the spiritual formations. So let me move away from that for a moment. And you just kind of keep that bookshelf in mind, because all these other areas would operate similarly. And we would see that they're filling in. What are my responses? I learned this from the environment I live in. And so it's so funny. You see one child on the playground or at a park, and they have a tiny little scratch on their knee. And while you can see it's a little scratch, maybe not even a droplet of blood, like it's just like a scratch. And he's like, my leg's falling off. And they're like, oh, I gotta have, and he's giving you the whole, 9 degrees of all of this that needs to be done. And you're like, what? I don't even see the problem. But there was probably somewhere along the way, it was reinforced that someone said, oh, the baby's scratched, oh no. And so he was like, oh, that's how you respond. And then you look over here and there's a little girl that is on the monkey bars, and you're saying, honey, you need to get down. Your leg is bleeding. Like it's pouring down your leg. And she's like, I'm fine, leave me alone. And her response probably that she has gotten was, rub it, it'll be fine. You just never know. And so Eric Jensen kind of lays this out as templates that go on the brain. And that's how I respond to these things. And so I want us to think about what are, in these young children, what are some of these characteristics that we should be mindful of, so that way we are really connecting with them. If you're not connecting, you're missing some opportunities. So I have a friend named Wanda that was at a steakhouse with her mom at lunch, and her mom was older and barely could get around. But while she was sitting there eating, she got choked and she couldn't breathe. And her mother couldn't help her. And so she just got up from her booth and walked over to this other booth with this man and just like pulled him by the arm up out of his booth, wrapped his arms around her, began giving herself the Heimlich maneuver, and her airway cleared. I mean, brilliant, right? And she said, listen, you saved my life. And the man said, listen, lady, I don't know what we were doing. Because he didn't want to be. But see, the deal is we're going to make connections. Let's choose to make positive connections when we're trying to help our boys and girls learn. And so let's think through that. First of all, let's think physically, because this is a big, big area that we're missing. And physical learners are in desperate need of someone to understand that. I'm going to give you a bunch of ideas that you can use with your physical learner. So first of all, let me just say that with this smaller age group, this younger age group, that they're developing small motor skills, small muscle control. And so when we're asking them to sit all day and write, it's horrible. It's just that it's not, their growth yet is not there. So be careful when you're talking about second, even third grade and younger. There needs to be some other movement that's going to happen. And so think about those small muscle groups that are working. The next one is they're developing hand-eye coordination. I have a good friend that they moved back a bunch of furniture and stuff in their front living room and put in a ping pong table, and was required that you had to go play ping pong with your brother every day for so long. And they got really good at it too. And of course, dad played and mom played. But you know what? That hand-eye coordination was so amazing. And that mom was really brilliant to bring that in. And they had to like dust the ping pong table like the other furniture. But for the time that they had it, it was giving them the developmental things that they needed. And so keep that in mind. I mean, it's same would be true with soccer or playing basketball or those type of activities. So I'm not just saying get a ping pong table, but you ought to get a ping pong table, because I did, and my boys were loving it. So that's important. And when we go to church camp, then like they're really good. Yeah. Okay. The next one is that they're active and they have a difficulty sitting still for too long. And this is true with boys and girls, not just boys, but they need to be able to stand up, to move around. Okay, last night at church, I have fourth grade, which is a little bit older, but they had like all this energy when they came in, and we had to jump and kind of get some of that burned off. And then we squatted down on the floor, like squat, and we were having some of our Bible learning, like squatted down on the floor until your ankles burned. I mean, just trying to keep them engaged. So let me give you a little bit of help right here. There is a great study and he refers to it, Dr. Leonard Sachs, and he refers to it in his book, Boys, let me see if I can say this, Boys Adrift, and then his other one is about girls on the edge, Boys Adrift, and how boys aren't necessarily ready for all of this sitting down and doing work. Their brain development is behind, and we've got to kind of join them with where they're at. And so he cited a really terrific thing, and that was in an all-boys school that they really got rid of all the chairs, and they raised the desks so everybody stood, and they watched as all of the grades went up, because the boys were standing using gross motor skills, large muscle groups, because they were concentrating. And I thought, well, that's just one. Like, really? That's just one. I don't know. And he made a great point to it. I'm not bashing him, because I really respect his work. I recommend Dr. Leonard Sachs for all of you. But I will say, the next week at church, whenever I had boys and girls in the classroom, they were first and second graders. And when they came in, I noticed one of the boys, as we were doing the application activity on a worksheet, he had his elbows down, but he kicked the chair back and kind of stood up and bent over the table. And my first reaction was, hey, you need to sit down. But then I said, wait. Anybody who wants to stand can stand, and anybody who wants to sit can sit. I don't care. And with that, all the boys stood. All the girls sat. And matter of fact, the girls looked at the boys like, you're so weird. It was so funny that the reaction was so different. The boys were still focused, they were respectful, and they were participating, but they were standing. And I think maybe we should try some of that kind of thing. So physical learners, and listen, they tire easily, so they need some breaks. Their attention span is a lot shorter. You know, research says that our attention spans are about 1 minute for every year of age until about 15. Then it gets kind of fuzzy. I think it probably goes down. But I kind of wonder, how long is your attention span? Do you read your social media like this? Like scroll. Yeah, I don't think any of us are really being asked to pay attention long. But when you're just 6 years old or 7 years old or younger, please realize that they're probably peaking out on their attention span. Unless it's going to be a game or something that's a novelty to the brain and it kind of restarts that. Humor will do that, and that'll be a novelty to the brain and it'll restart that attention span. So think that through. Am I asking children to be really long and labored sitting here and doing this? All right, they like all kinds of games. And I'm going to give you a couple in just a moment that will help a lot, but they like all kinds of games. And those games are not for winning, they're for learning. And I want us to just frame it that way in our minds as teachers, that we're helping the boys and girls experience and process the information, so that way they're learning it in different ways. The next one is that physical ideas is that they like using their hands. Can this be made into something that they get their hands on it, that they get to enjoy it? Because that's going to be a big deal. And they enjoy creative play. So I'm going to drill down on that in just a moment. They enjoy creative play. Okay, the second part is mental, or this cognitive idea. So please understand that they're limited on their ability to think abstractly. They really need it to be concrete thinking. They need for you to, maybe you could give them a theory or a hypothesis and say, hey, I wonder what would happen if. Okay, well, there's curiosity with that. That's awesome. But curiosity is really great in pulling them in. And we could process through this and see what happens and record our information. But we have to kind of phrase it kind of like that in order to find the concrete answer. So abstract thinking would be difficult. All right. The next one is with this mental is fears. That they fear imagery that is like creatures. I have a little girl right now in my kindergarten class that we watch a little segment, and it is animated Bible story, and it isn't scary at all. And her parents came to me and said, listen, she doesn't like that. That scares her. And I said, what? Like, I can't imagine what was scary. You know, like we had God's creating the world. I just can't imagine, because there was nothing depicted that would be scary. And so they said, well, actually, just about any cartoon, like we can't even go to the movie because it just creates more anxiety. And so it's a real deal for children, and be sensitive to that in those imagery type of things. They can follow specific instructions, but younger children need one step at a time. One step at a time. That means you wouldn't say, Joseph, when you get finished with that paper, I want you to put it over here, take that outside and put it in the hall, and then join me over here for our reading time. Us like, what? And he goes straight to the reading time. And you're like, well, why didn't you do all these other things I said? It's because there were too many steps altogether. One step at a time. Matter of fact, there are a lot of adults who can't take too many steps either. You have to give one step at a time. So in your teacher fine-tuning those superpowers, just remember one step at a time, and that will be a much better connection and give a lot more success. The next one is that they have a limited attention span, but they have a good memory. Matter of fact, they're fast learners. They're just shallow learners. So I'll give you a little bit more about that in a minute. And they can get absorbed deeply into activities. And so sometimes we have to transition kids out to say, okay, in 4 more minutes, we're going to move on to the next thing. In 3 more minutes, it's going to be time to go. Okay, 2 minutes. One more time, we're going to do it, and that's all. I know you want to do it more. Maybe we can do it again tomorrow or next time or later, but this is it. And you transition children to the next thing. And we have a lot of teachers who don't understand the value and how huge transitions are. They simply need to be counted down, and they can do it. Matter of fact, I have so many adults that we have to transition. We have to tell them, hey, we're going to start in 60 seconds. So they like, oh, I got to go get it. And a little warning is always appreciated. And so transition your kids. And if it's a game you're playing, tell them in 3 more times we're going to stop. And if they're saying, no, I don't want to stop, then you're playing a good game. You should take note of that, write it down, because your memory stinks. I'm just being real right there. And open the cabinet door and tape it to the inside, because that's where you put all those go-to games. And take note of that. Now, if you're hearing the children say, I don't want to do it again, and you're saying, come on, just one more time. Okay, you got a bad game. It's like ran its limit. You need to quit and move on from that. Mentally, they have a real need to succeed. And so when you give affirmations and high fives and tell them what a good job, you are helping in a huge way to feel successful and to move on. And say why you like it. Say, I like it that you did this, and this was a good idea. I'm glad you did that. That was smart. See, you've got it. Then you're telling them that they're successful. And that's a huge deal. I was teaching a worship arts camp. I had the creative drawing class this summer. And it was so funny because as I was teaching cartooning, and as I got everybody started, then I started going down the row and talking to each person. And I would say, hey, this looks good like this. Oh, I'm glad you chose to do that. Oh, I'd erase that and do it like, and that was it. And just move to the next one. Good job. Keep going. Next one. And before I could get to the 19th one, I was already hearing back up here at 1 and 2, Mr. Mark, can you come back? I want to show you what I did. Because they were wanting that affirmation. It really does fuel them. And I want to challenge you to really give the affirmation. When it's deserved, you need to speak up and say it. It's powerful. Now listen, this age kids, they're starting to find Bible verses in the Bible, and you need to practice those Bible skills. Get it out. Let them work on it. And work them through there, like in the very middle, that's Psalms. And if you do the back half again, because the back quarter of the Bible is the New Testament, and you're helping them find these areas. I know a lot of people who have learned the books of the Bible by singing the song. I mean, it's kind of long, but if that's the way you learned it. But for me, I want my children at my church to be able to find the book in the Bible in 10 seconds and be able to tell me the book before it and the book after it. That's the standard. That's where we're going. And I want to challenge you to help your children be successful like that, to be able to find it. Because if I say Ephesians, then you can't sing to Ephesians in 10 seconds. So we got to learn it by divisions. There's 5 divisions in the Old, 5 divisions in the New Testament, and we just learn it by divisions. It's kind of like math facts. You just learn them, and you practice them, and that's how you retain that skill. And Bible skills are children's discipleship, because we don't teach this in youth or student ministry. We don't teach this in adult ministry. It's like you have it, or they just won't bring their Bible. So I challenge you to go ahead and be implementing this. And this is just for extra because you deserve it. There's a difference in Bible study and discipleship, but many can't figure out what's the difference. Well, Bible study is just that, Bible literacy. We're learning. But discipleship, even though it involves Bible study, the element is accountability. That you know something, you put it into your life, and when you come back the next week, you can say that verse, you can find that book, and we're going to keep practicing it, and you are being discipled. It is children's discipleship. Okay, that sounded a little preachy. I hope that was okay. All right, well, let's go on to the social and kind of the emotional side. It's moving toward independence. They want to be able to try things, but they need frequent assurance that it's okay. I have found that motivating kids, like motivating girls, it feels like you're going, all right, come on, you can do it. And you're cheering them on, you're giving them all of your strength to make that happen. And so they step into it. And with boys, it's almost like you're saying, you can't do that. You're not big enough to do that. And then he's all like, yeah, I can do it. And you're like, I don't know. And he said, I'll show you. And so he gets it, he starts doing it. And both are motivating. And I know it sounds weird that you build one up and almost tear one down, but you are in motivating them, you're encouraging them. And of course, there's lots of celebration after that. I'm just talking about motivation. Okay. Okay, let me go on. The next one is, these children are sensitive to what others think, and they really are looking for approval. And so they really need our affirmation. I mean, from the smallest things, some children just need to hear us say, I'm so glad you're here. And other children really want to be noticed for something else. But they need our affirmation, because that means I'm accepted. And when you use that kind of language or chosen language, like, I'm so glad you're in my class, I'm so glad you're my son, they really can't even do anything about that. But the truth is, it's acceptance, it's affirmation. And so that's important that you are saying that to your kids. I think it should be noted that this age does cry easily. These younger children can cry easily, so be careful when they're overwhelmed, when they're scolded. All of those things are it's almost like criticism or judgment, and it doesn't hurt children to cry. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying pushing them to a limit when they're trying so hard. Be sensitive to that, because you really might just need to get up and go walk outside. I mean, walk to the mailbox and back, and then come back to it, and it'll be better. You got to get some of that overwhelm off. They may avoid new situations. And so if you can go see it first, if you can explain how it is, if you can give them any information and kind of walk through that even in their thinking, it diffuses some of that. And so be aware of that. They use their own experiences to understand other people's experiences. And so when they hear your stories of how something was, they even can kind of own it, and it helps them kind of assimilate into that and to understand a little bit more. Now, they can be very self-centered, like it's all about me and what I'm going to get, and it's what I'm doing. And so that's why we need to have service projects what we do for other people. Because the only way we'll understand what Jesus was meaning by the joy of serving others that you have is by doing it. And children don't need to wait until they're teenagers on a mission trip or something. There are things they can do now. And you should build that into your family plan of serving other people. I was really surprised whenever I learned that our next door neighbor, Miss Tommy, she had a tiny little yard, probably smaller than my living room. It was so small, and her backyard was even smaller. And she would have these big outfits. They'd come and mow her lawn, edge it, and blow it off and stuff, and then they'd leave. And I'm sure it was costing her tons, and she was on a fixed income, and I knew that we could help. And I thought, but I can't do all summer like that. That's going to be a lot. So I went across the street and I asked Danny, and I asked Sean, his neighbor, and said, would y'all be open if we each took a month and our sons and we mowed her lawn? Like, what would that be? 4 times that you would have to do it? And they all said, sure. Yeah, we'll do that. And I'm not saying they were even church members. I'm not even sure that Sean was a believer, but he wanted to be engaged in that kind of thing. And they got their sons involved, and I did too. And we're talking about a first grader and a kindergartner. We were out there mowing her lawn, and they were like, oh, this is so hard. I'm hot. And I explained to them that Miss Tommy didn't ask us to do this. We willingly are doing this because we appreciate her and we love her, and this costs her a lot of money, so we're going to help her save the money and do this for her. And by the way, we ended up getting some cookies out of the deal, and that was terrific. And so we have to look for ways to help engage our children in serving others. And I've already kind of walked through the spiritual things, but I really want you to understand that they're gathering that information and they're drawing those conclusions and they're filling up that bookshelf. And then the Holy Spirit is going to reveal the truth to them, and they'll be ready because they've been learning and gathering that. And so as just a little bit of a beginning point, I know that was a big point, but I wanted to set the stage with who we're talking about, that you could be better prepared. So I want to go through 8 ways that you can engage your children. What are the 8 things that really draw to them? So when you're preparing your curriculum, you're ready to engage with them with what is going to help the most. Okay, so the first one is teaching through the senses. Whenever you teach through the senses, it means that it's the hearing, the seeing, the touching, the smelling, what's the other one? Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, touching, feeling. My wife's over here whispering to me. So tasting, that's it. You're so smart. Well, anyway, whatever you can do that will engage that, it's going to be really a great learning moment. So now, when a baby picks something up, what does the baby do with it? Yeah, exactly. Puts it in their mouth, because that's always going to be the bottom line for learning, is going to be one of those senses. So if whatever you're teaching could involve a sense, then you are going to even have better connections with that. So is this something that will be hands-on? Is it something that we're going to go and feel it, like it's going to be damp and dark? And I mean, I don't know where you could involve them, but all of the things, maybe it's going to be tasting something, whatever your curriculum is, can it be done that it will involve the senses? Okay, one of my favorite games that I like to do is use a new pill holder, like you divide up for each day of the week or even a month. They have big ones at Walmart. And so you open it up and you put a cotton ball in each one, and you use clear extract like vanilla, lemon, mint, what else is it? Almond, and you put these different clear extracts on the cotton balls and close them. And so they have to smell each one and see which one matches. But it's only a smelling game. It's only smell it because there's nothing to see or anything as a clue. Well, can you add some math facts into that? What would the answer be if you did this? It's a possibility. And a lot of science things, a lot of nature things that we have are going to be related to these kind of senses. So take advantage of that. Know that they're going to engage with that. Okay, the next one's curiosity. Anytime that you can bring curiosity into it, then it's going to work great. Here's the problem. Most adults want to give advice to kids or tell kids what to do. Like, we feel like that's our job. Give them advice, tell them what to do. But the problem is that we're not helping them by telling them everything. So I want to challenge you that you would start with why or how. That's the first word of your sentence. Why or how. Why is this important? And let it be talked about. How do you think this will go if, and let it be talked about? There can be conversation. Conversation is so good. And it could be in a larger group even. Have that conversation. So the challenge is that the teacher be quiet long enough in order to see that happen. So I want to challenge you to create curiosity. Okay, one quick thing that I might say is I've had some kids that weren't like engaged with whatever we were doing, and we were doing some puzzles. They were kindergarten boys, and I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I want you to turn around where you can't see, and I'm going to turn these puzzle pieces over where you can't see all of them, and I'm going to try to see if you can do this in 60 seconds. And they want to turn around, like, what are you doing? I said, no, you can't look yet. And so I was turning a few of them over and mixing them up. And they said, 60 seconds? I said, yeah, that's only 1 minute. I really don't think you can do it. And they said, yeah, we can do it. I said, we'll see. And what was happening was they were like not engaged. And, you know, when boys are not engaged, it usually leads to destruction. And, but now it kind of turned around and they're like, yeah, we can do it. And of course I was looking at it, kind of counting slow, and they were getting it done and they succeeded and they were ready to do it again. So curiosity will help engage those kids. And so start with why or how whenever you say something, and let's see what it comes out to. And I think you'll be surprised. Okay, the next one's satisfaction. Satisfaction is interesting because a lot of preschool teachers could take advantage of this and they don't understand it. That when a child is finished with something and they want to move on to something else, you can see they're satisfied and they're ready to go on to something else. And younger children may need to stop this and move to that and then come back to this at a different time. Like, there's a little bit of movement that goes on, especially with preschoolers that we're fixing to talk about in play, is they're engaging in the curriculum with what we're teaching by how they're responding. Okay, let me just give you an example. Let's say Hillary is at the painting station. So she's painting at the easel. She loves to paint. Oh, loves to paint. So she's painting. It's wonderful. She's enjoying it. Okay, the paper is sopping wet, saturated. And so you take it off and you're like, that's good. Let's go try something else. And she's like, no, I'm not done. And what she means is, put another one up, lady. Come on, let's do this. I'm ready for another one. And so you put her name on it and she starts that one. All right, let's say Max comes up on the other side and he's gonna paint. Okay, well, Max never does paint. Like, this is huge that Max came over to paint. And you put his name on there with the permanent marker and he starts painting and he puts like a swipe here and a swipe there, one more swipe, and done. He puts it down. He's satisfied. Hillary's not satisfied, but Max is satisfied. And what would be the wrong thing to do is for the teacher to say, come on, Max, let's just try another color. You're doing so good. Like, I love it that you're trying this. That's wonderful. And with that, you're gonna like hurt your opportunities to get him involved again, because he's done. And with Hillary, if you're saying, Hillary, you're done, honey, let's move on here. This is completely full. She's not very happy either because you pushed her away. Now, does that mean she can stay there and do it all day? No, because there's other people who need a turn, and you would need to say, you've got 4 minutes to do this, and then we have to move on to something else because other friends need to come up and have a turn at the painting station. And so you kind of move them on that way. So that works really well. Watch for satisfaction, because your kids probably will be satisfied and you need to quit. You can do it again another time if you'll move on when it's time. Okay, the next one is play. Younger children are going to want to be involved in some play. And when you set up different learning type of scenarios, different centers of sorts, and you're working through, just remember that we are teaching the curriculum, even the Bible truth, through the play. Like, you have to segue into that. You have to keep moving into that as the teacher, leading in that, because they're doing it for play. But the conversation that happens is the teaching moment. That's the teachable time, and you've got to take advantage of that. So be sure that you're always using those playful moments or those centers and things for learning, not just playing, because you may be losing an opportunity that you shouldn't be. Now, I'm okay with free play, that kind of thing. It's not a problem. I'm just saying, when you've got things set up for a reason, they need to count and have all those conversations when you're doing those kind of activities. All right, the next one's hands-on. And I think I've already talked about this somewhat, but hands-on learning is when they get to put their hands on it and figure it out. And it's not just an art project, but math can be learned with hands-on pieces that we're dividing and we're plus and minus. And I mean, there are a lot of hands-on type of ways of teaching these principles. And so I want you to think about that. I mean, what about magnet play on oil drip pans for some of those words that you're trying to create and learn how to spell? Yeah, so playing, actually hands-on. And if you haven't seen the oil drip pans, maybe you're just using a cookie sheet or something for magnet play, you are missing out. You've got to go to Walmart, and it's in the automotive section, and they're huge, huge pans, and they're flat, and they're great. And they work great as trays when you're doing experiments and stuff, because if it were to spill over or anything, it's just all on that one pan, and it's big, and it's so handy. Very handy. I know a lot of teachers who have even mounted them to the walls because it's so easy just to do the magnet play, or use magnets to hold papers, that kind of thing. Big help, and they're not that much money, like $12 or $13 or something like that. Not bad at all. So I challenge you to think about some of those ways to do hands-on type of learning. All right, the next one is relationships. Some children are relational learners, and they want to engage with within relationships. Okay, a good way, if you have more children in a room, like it's in a co-op or a classroom where you have more children, you can give the principle that you're learning, the goal of what you're learning, the objective, and you're two there, and you say to each other, I want you to now tell your partner what you learned. How do you do this? It doesn't matter if it's algebra or if it's reading or spelling, it doesn't matter. Tell your neighbor what you learned, how to do this. And they now have to share with each other. It could be that in a larger situation like that, you would say, now don't ask me a question until you've asked at least 3 other people. So that way they each can help you understand what the task is or how to do it or what to do. Because in a relationship type of learning, we help each other. And that is a great principle to learn, but it is one of the ways these younger children learn. But they're not being engaged in that very often. So when you have the opportunity, let them do that. It's a big deal, that relationship type of learning. Okay. The next one is repetition. Okay, repetition is the mother of memory. Let's just be real about it. The more we say it, the more we do it, the more we practice it, the better it gets. One of the best phrases that parents can know and learn and use is try again. That's right. Simple. Try again. So I was getting ready to take my kids, and my daughter was here, and we were headed to school actually, and my the oldest daughter came out, and she said, we have 5 kids. We have boys and then we have girls, and the 2 girls are the youngest, and I refer to them as trauma and drama. And so anyway, as we're getting ready to go to school, we're kind of running late, like, oh, we need to go. And so she comes in kind of late, but she comes in looking horrible, like it's not all covered right. It's bad. And now I know she was middle school, and she kind of liked the way things were turning out and everything, but I didn't. It was bad. And so as she came in, and I knew this would never do, I said, honey, is today Hoochie Mama Day? And she said, what? That's like her favorite word. What? And I said, well, I mean, I know like you have Spirit Day or Crazy Sock Day, but is today Hoochie Mama Day? And she said, no, why would you even say that? I said, well, look at the way you're dressed. Like, you shouldn't have even come out of the bedroom looking like that. You need to go put those groceries up. And that's what I have to call them. When's your daughter? And so that's just the way we did it. And so she was mad, and she turned around and sighed, and she rolled her eyes and stomped her foot. I said, wait. And she said, what? I said, I know you're mad. I know you're frustrated. I get that. But you are not dressed appropriately, and you have to be. So try again, and this time with some respect, because you still have to respect me. I'm your father. And even though you're mad, you can do it better than that. Try again. And you know what? She turned without stomping her foot, without sighing, but she rolled her eyes. And I said, wait. And she turned around and she said, what? I said, you rolled your eyes. I said, wait, you're going to get yourself in trouble. That is still so disrespectful. Try again. And so she tried. And she went, it was really pretty funny. I had a hard time not laughing. But anyway, she went to the bedroom and she covered it all up the way it was supposed to be. Use the word try again. I know this wasn't a parenting conference. That's for another time. But I'm going to say use those words, try again. They will serve you well. Okay, so repetition is the mother of memory, and the only people who get tired of saying the curriculum, the content, is the teacher. Yeah, the kids aren't getting tired of it. Younger children want to do it again. And you've seen preschoolers who will do like the puzzle and then dump it out, and just do the same puzzle again and dump it out. Matter of fact, when Blue's Clues came on TV, it came on Monday, the episode was aired, and then on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it aired the same episode every day because they understood their audience. Younger children want to do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Repeat to remember. So just know that repetition is a good thing. It helps with that learning. All right, the last one is, number 7, is imitation. Imitation is children's drama where they get to role play or be someone else, something else, and they get to play that part, and they like it. It's amazing to me in my elementary classes as well as preschool that when I say, okay, we're going to do this, who wants to play a part? Every hand. Like everybody, even shy, they will be a part of just to read a part or to be in it drama is a big deal, and it draws them into it. And so with little children, that's one of the reasons we have like home living centers, that kind of thing. It's role playing, and in their life experience so far, home living is about all they know. And so they role play that very well. It doesn't always have to be home living. It can be a post office. It can be a grocery store. It can be the construction office or a veterinarian's office. I mean, it can be anything. And just put paper over that furniture and let it be something else. We've made a print shop. I mean, I can't even think of all the stuff we've made. We've just turned it into whatever you want, but then go in and show them. Okay, I'll be the eye doctor first. Here's the chart on the wall. I'm going to put a spoon, a wooden spoon, cover this eye. Now tell me what the letters say. And you're role playing that. You're doing that. And so if you're reading a story and then you say, all right, we're going to take a break, and y'all have 4 or 5 minutes to figure out how to make this into a play. And you'll need to get right there in front of the fireplace, because that's our stage. By the way, the fireplace hearth is our stage for all singers. And you are going to have to perform the play. And they will have processed what they've learned and shown you. Or maybe you're going to have them even do that through art of somehow that they're going to draw it. So let me give you a couple of ideas with this. Whenever you want everyone to participate, something I learned, and you want everybody to answer the question at the same time, is have them whisper it in their hand and then let it go at the same time. Meaning, what is the 5th book of the New Testament? Everybody whisper it in your hand. 1, 2, 3, let it go. Acts. Right. But everybody gets to answer. Everybody gets to participate. And even those that are shy get to be a part of that, because it looks very simple. Even if they had to whisper it to their neighbor, and then everybody's learning the answer or practicing it that way. And so that's a safe way. And you're looking for safe ways to do it. I think it's always best to engage them in like physical activity. And so this would be part of the play. And physical movement is so good. You heard me say that about the boys at the very beginning. So what would it be like if you put a sidewalk chalk in the end of a swim noodle and you stretched it out and said, you have to write on this big paper or chalkboard, I don't care, with this chalk, with this swim noodle, but you have to stand and stretch as far as you can in order to do it. Or even to have a line on the floor and you have to stretch your arm way out and write it with, I mean, you can't cross the line. Well, you're using large muscle groups. Another fun way is to have a table and then let the kids lay under it and do it like a mechanic under a car. And they have to answer it and do whatever it is that you want them to do. All of that is good physical movement. If they're having trouble focusing or something, to simply say, you know what, go take a lap around the house and come back. They'll thank you. I mean, they'll be glad. I want you to count to 15 as you pass the ball back and forth. Or as you say, the books of Paul's letters, you're going to pass it. But anything that's going to be movement to get them up, even to stand on one leg or bob your head, whatever it may be, you're going to get some physical movement going there. So I've got a couple others I want to give you. I hope that's okay. When it's true and false, and we are dealing with a lot of true and false statements these days, so that's a good life skill to be practicing true and false. So you would put a T on this wall and an F on this wall, and you would say the question. Let me give you a question. Mary is Jesus's mother. True or false? You have to get up and go to that side. You can't be in the middle, the lukewarm, spew you out of my mouth. So it's got to be one or the other. And they probably will know, and they'll go to true. And then you ask the question, and this is, I'm trying to demonstrate this. The question might be, Joseph is Jesus's father. True or false? Now we're thinking, what would you say? True or false? You're probably saying it depends. Right, because this is a thinking question. And the reason I want you to think is the Bible says that God is Jesus's father and that Joseph was his earthly father. And so we now have a little something to step into and think about. So when you're asking a question that would sound more like, well, it depends, then you're thinking. Those kids are thinking. And that's what you want. You want them to really differentiate between what is true about this and what is not, because we're all watching the news and we're having to differentiate what's true and what's false. And that's a great life skill, and helping them be critical thinkers like that. But get up and move one side or the other, and then start talking about it while you're standing there. So do you like that? I hope that'll help you a little bit as well. I think another good way to do review stuff is to use a plastic solo plate. If you've got little whiteboards, that's great, but a lot of people don't have those. But a little solo plate, if it's plastic, you can use a dry erase marker and wipe it off. Like you could write on it and then reveal, or you can put it on your head and you can write on it up here. Oh, can you see that? Yeah, write on it up here and then reveal. So it can be done different ways. I think that's pretty fun. And it's a great way to do that and erase it. And you're playing, you're involving them. It's not sit at the table and crank out another paper. That's always so much fun. Okay. One final thought that I want to give to you is the TPT. And what I mean by this is think, pair, share. And I've already alluded to this a little bit, but what I want you to understand is to engage children doesn't mean that the teacher talks the whole time and then this imaginary ball, if you will, and tosses it to a child and asks the question, they answer, toss the ball back, and we toss it to another child. That is such a horrible model, and it's our default for some reason. We go to that all the time. So go with the TPT and engage children, meaning that you're going to think, pair, share. So you've asked the question, and before anybody can answer, they have to find a neighbor, and they have to tell them what they think the answer is, and they share that. They agree on that, and then they share. The problem is sometimes it gets quiet and the teacher feels like they need to fill it with more chatter, and you just need to shut up. Like, teacher, you talk too much. There needs to be time to think, to process. Maybe your children say, just a minute, I'm not ready. Well, that's a pretty good indication. You need to shut up. There's some thinking. Quiet is fine. Embrace that. Welcome that, because they're processing it. And when you start talking, you interrupt all that thinking. So be ready to let them process that and to do that. Now, whenever they share with their partner, they're having a chance to figure out, is this right? Why is this right? Or why is this wrong? It really does help work out a lot of those details. And so the TPT, I think you'll like that. Okay, I'm gonna throw it back to our host, to Cindy, and let me know. I'm not quite sure how much farther, because I stopped the clock. You know, it was going to chime and all of that.
Well, Mr. Mark, we're going to open it up for questions and see if anybody has any questions to ask you. I know we've had one already. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can't see the question, so you just let me.
I got them. I'm going to read them to you. Jessica asked a little while earlier when you were talking about the children looking up the books of the Bible, and she said, do the children have to know how to read very well before you task them with finding the books in the Bible?
Very good. And the answer is no. And let me explain how I would teach beginning Bible skills to pre-readers. When I work with preschoolers, and I do every Sunday morning, and then I work with elementary on Wednesday night. And as I work with these pre-readers, I will say, all right, really, turn the page, They don't even know how to turn the page. Like, they turn it like this. So you got to practice turning the page. That's your first Bible skill as we're turning the page. And then I'll say there's a word at the top. That's the name of the book. There are 66 books in this Bible, and that's the name of the book. So I want you to turn the page, and when I say stop, I want you to find a name that has the letter R in it, and put your finger on it and show me. And so they're looking for the letter R, and I'll say, yes, that's right, that's Ruth, or that's Mark, or whatever it may be that they found. Yes, that's correct. But really, they've learned this is the name of the book. It's right here in the corner. And so I might practice that with numbers too, and say, let's look for the big number 8. Keep turning until I say stop, and then find the big number 8. That's called a chapter. That's the 8th chapter in that book. The small number's the verse. So you're practicing some of those things, and you've made it a game, and you're teaching Bible skills. Now, there's more Bible skills that we could teach, and I've got a bunch of this type of stuff. It's free at mrmarksclassroom.com, and you can go to resources and see a bunch of that. And I by the way, I want to mention that today I had a great interview with a man named James Hargrave, and he gave lots of teaching tips and ideas. I want to say tricks, but they're really great methods. In my interview with him today, I challenge you to take a look at those. But, Bible names are also a good Bible skill. Whenever I'm telling a Bible story or something, like there's a man named Saul, and he's walking down the road to Damascus. Everyone say Damascus, Damascus. That's correct. That's how you say it. So I go on with the story. He was walking down the road to Damascus, and he saw this light. Okay, I've practiced them on how to say a Bible name. That's a Bible skill. Does that help a little bit?
That's very good. Yeah, about something you said at the end there, the think, pair, share. You said TPT, and you kind of cut out a little bit. What does the TPT stand for?
Think, pair, talk, not share.
Talk. Got it. Okay.
Maybe I should. It might be easier to say TPS. TPT.
Well, either way, we get the concept. So that was very good. Carol had that question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Actually, I learned that today from. That's brand new. I kind of told you about it earlier when I was saying talk to your neighbor. But when he said that today, I'd never heard that name before. But James is the one who shared that, and it was just outstanding.
Very good. That's something, hey, teenagers can do. I have two teenagers. Yeah. I might try that with them.
Good.
Anyone else have other questions?
Hey, and
Mr. Mark.
If you don't have a question, what about an affirmation? Something that you liked or you took out of this. I'd like to hear what you liked or what would be useful to you.
Well, while we're waiting, I'll go ahead and start. I about lost it when you said to your daughter, "Is today Hoochie Mama Day?" That was hilarious.
Yeah. She couldn't believe I said it either.
Well, and, it reminds me that we need to have a little humor sometimes with our children, and even our discipline doesn't have to be harsh. It can be to the point, but yeah,
because we weren't leaving. We weren't leaving.
No.
That was horrible.
My daughter would be happy with a Star Wars tee and a pair of jeans, so we don't.
Yeah, sounds comfortable, right? Like a Saturday morning.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. The ideas about. Oops, where'd it go? Hang on. The ideas about using large muscle groups were very helpful to me.
Oh, good.
That was from Hannah Beth, my cousin. Hi, Hannah Beth.
Oh, that's cool. Hannah Beth, I really tell you, I think you'll enjoy the engaging. You're going to see some smiles on kids' faces because you're trying stuff like that and getting up out of the chair. It's good.
Okay, and Natalie asks, what do you think of the wobble chairs versus standing up at the desk in regards to young boys?
You know what? I've done something that's similar to that, and I'm curious, Natalie, right?
Yes, that was Natalie.
Natalie, tell me if you think this would work. But I had a little boy who was diagnosed with ADHD, and he really did have it. I mean, I've seen kids diagnosed with ADD when they were really just BAD. And I was trying to figure out how I could help him to get focused, because he didn't take his medicine, or it wore off by the time I had him in class. And he was such a great kid. And I had read that it would be helpful if you just inflate a beach ball just a little bit, that would raise you up off of the chair, just enough. Not really even a bubble or a dome or anything. It just raised you up enough that made a cushion. But you found yourself kind of working to get centered all the time. And as I was watching him work on that, like he was constantly working his core, trying to get in place or balance and all of that, he wasn't wiggling so much that we couldn't focus on what it is we were learning, but he was actually engaged because he had this kind of in the background going on. And afterwards, because I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if this is really working. And I already had several kids go, well, I want one of those. And I thought, I've made it. This is bad. And after it was over, I mean, he was focused the whole time. And whenever it was over, he said, Mr. Mark, thank you for this. I love this. It helped me learn today. And I was like, I'll have them for everybody next week. And so it just, because everybody, and I just called them a cushion. I got cushions for everybody. And it really did help a lot. So to buy the chair, I mean, if you're loaded, go ahead and buy the chair. But I'm just saying that was a big help. Do you think that would be the same, Natalie? Do you think that'll work? She's frantically typing.
Well, I didn't hear back from Natalie yet, okay. But I had another question.
All right.
From Paige. How would you incorporate the TPT with homeschooling as a homeschool parent?
Right. Well, of course, it depends how many children are in the room or could do the sharing time, because it could be that the age difference is so much that it's a challenge. So I don't really know what the scenario is. It would be a challenge in that. It might work best in a co-op or something where you're having that kind of a classroom together. But I still think, and I say this to people with small children's ministry, because their church is small, and they're like, well, we've got like from kindergarten to 5th grade, and there's only 6. And you're like, I mean, I get that. That's just like, that's true. And so I say, then you have to lead that like a family. The oldest ones have to help the younger ones learn. And so in a sharing situation, if you had older ones, they have to almost be a teacher assistant and letting the little ones share, and they're sharing back what they understand about it. It's just reinforcing it for the older. I know that I don't know the ages of your children and what you're talking about, but to try to think of it as a share type of thing. And it also could work that they could express whatever it is you're asking at a chalkboard or a whiteboard and be able to draw it or write it and make that expression. And then you can see as they're describing it to you, that would be the tell part or the share part, that they're telling you what they've come up with, and you can see how they've processed it. Does that help, Natalie?
That's very good. I think that was from Paige, that question there.
Oh, okay.
I heard from Natalie and about the wobble chairs, and she said that might work. Those wobble chairs are very expensive, I'm just worried my first grader is moving too much to pay attention to what I'm teaching. I thought you gave a really good story there, Mr. Mark, about using that.
Well, Jacob thanked me, and I was shocked that it actually proved to be a good thing. Try it. I mean, right now is a good time of year to buy beach balls.
Or yoga balls.
They're on sale.
Yeah. Okay, we had a couple questions from Laura. She's starting a co-op for preschool, and she really loved the information that you were giving, and she loved your love for teaching. So that was encouragement for you. And her question is, what is your advice on a new co-op as far as objectives and goals? It's not curriculum, like writing and reading, but more life skills and building relationships and doing art and music.
Okay, I'm going to push back a little bit right there. What's her name?
Laura.
Well, I'm going to push back just a little bit, because you can bring to that experience lots of literacy type of things that like I even said about the Bible skills. There are lots of beginning literacy things to bring into that. And by the way, I went ahead and brought, in case this might come up with preschool, I have a can you see it? Learning Centers Beyond Compare notebook. Listen, this is very Pinteresty, but it's ideas that we've come up with, and there's over 200. And the reason I'm saying they're Pinteresty is because there's a photograph, and then there is the explanation or the recipe, how to make it. Does that make sense? I was giving you several looks at it, how to make it, or what it looks like. Well, it's loaded with literacy type of things. So basically it follows the 5 main learning centers, which would be home living, puzzles, which is for logical learners. And you've got serious puzzle issues if all you're doing is sitting down and doing a puzzle. There's lots of different ways to bring puzzles into this, sorting, categorizing. I mean, there's lots of good activities that you might be missing. The next one could be nature. Anything that God made is going to be in nature. And nature shows up a lot in all the centers, by the way. And then another one would be blocks or construction. So when the children are building with blocks, and if they're older preschoolers, let's say 3 and older, they're going to use those wooden unit blocks. And if there's the blockbuster cardboard blocks, but that's going to be big, because that's also where transportation and stand-up figures and things like that are in there. But it's construction, and I know you're not asking for a whole seminar on that, but the other one would be art. And so there's lots and lots of ideas in this Learning Centers Beyond Compare. Wonderful people contributed to this that are very experienced in all of these.
I have 4 boys and a daughter, and sometimes my boys don't focus that well in school, but it was more I talk and now you listen, which doesn't work very well. All of my kids are under 7, so I will be applying a lot of what you said to our schoolwork.
Well, good.
That's very encouraging.
Good. Just maybe take some of these ideas that you noted and add one each week or something, so you don't overwhelm yourself, because it'd be better to practice it and do it, and then it'll become more second nature. But you need to kind of pace yourself with that. Very good.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions?
Hey, by the way, let me say that at Mr. Mark's Classroom, when you go on there, and you'll see across the navigation bar all the different choices that are there, but it should pop up that you could sign up for Mr. Mark's Classroom, and you can get a free book. And there'll be a Learning Center section in it. There's going to be a Holiday Ideas section. There's going to be Bible skill games, because I have books or binders with all of that as well, Bible skill games. But there'll be a nice sample book that you can download and have, and it's free when you sign up. Now, when you sign up, you get an email from me on Mondays, and it's kind of like I decided, since the Pioneer woman can cook in her kitchen, then I could make stuff and show people how to make a Bible skill game or do an activity with kids. And it's just a little quick episode of an idea, a teacher help. It's more of a teacher swap shop. And it's a video tip that you can have. And then on Thursdays, I usually have an interview with someone, or I teach something just like this, and you can watch it. It's usually not this long, but you can watch it, and they're all free. So it doesn't hurt to add that to your arsenal of your toolbox. Maybe that'd be a better way to say it, your toolbox of ideas.
Let's see. Carol says, do you teach elementary school as well as church? I like TPT and liked all of it. You're hilarious and sharp and wise.
Well, thank you. I think I'm just older. I've just been in there. I don't teach school. I started just in college. I was teaching at a school for the deaf, but I only had one student. I was teaching sign language, and right out of there, into ministry and to seminary. And so it's been my passion, and I love being in the classroom. I teach regularly on Sundays and Wednesdays. I have other people be the people in the hall, and I get to teach.
Nice. Carol's asking, where did you go to seminary, if you don't mind?
Sure. I went to Southwestern Seminary in Fort Worth, Texas, and then I went to New Orleans Seminary to begin my doctorate, and I had to declare my education done before I finished the doctorate, because there was so much happening with Mr. Mark's Classroom, because we've had over 13,000 people sign up to follow, and there's just a huge responsibility. And then in Oklahoma, I work for the state convention to be that contact for churches to have help in children's ministry. And then my own children's ministry, I have responsibility for babies through 5th grade, and most any Sunday morning is about 400 people for babies through 5th grade. So the plate's kind of full.
You are a busy guy. So Hannah Beth says that her Sunday school leaders and teachers at church could really use this. So she's very happy about that. And Carol is asking, do you know Mr. Mike Miller?
Mike Miller, that's probably just as common as Mark Jones. Mike Miller. I'm sorry, I don't. Sorry.
That's okay.
I do about 25 speaking engagements a year. I don't have any more room this year for any other speaking engagements, but I've really met some incredible people that I've learned from as well. And I don't know, maybe I've crossed paths with him or not. I'm not sure where she's from or anything.
Well, this is Cindy again. You might remember that a couple years ago you came to my church, First Baptist Church in Cabot. You probably don't remember that.
Yes, I did. So you're in Arkansas.
Yes, yes.
I've been there twice, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I do not teach in the children's area, but my mother does, and she was there. She was very excited.
What a fun group. We had such a great day. I have a thing called the one-day workshop with Mr. Mark. And we go through, I just like drinking from a fire hydrant. I'm blasting everything possible. It's a great day.
Carol McCall says, just tell him that he is a professor, the man she was talking about.
Oh, Mike
Dr.
Miller.
Mike Miller. He is a professor at Southwestern. Angela is saying, really enjoyed this, Mr. Mark. Thank you so much for being willing to speak to us tonight.
Thank you. I'm really glad to have been a part of it as well. I appreciate it.
Well, excellent. And if there's no more questions?
And if you want to see more resources and more helps, you know where to go, mrmarksclassroom.com, and let your let the people who work with your children know about it, so that way they can get resourced as well.
Yes, it looks like a great resource for us. Thank you so much, Mr. Mark. We really enjoyed.
I'm on Facebook and Pinterest, and like everybody.
I hear you. All right. Well, on behalf of schoolhouseteachers.com, we'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. But I did want to show you a few things that we have to offer on schoolhouseteachers.com. So Diane's going to get my slide up there. Yes. Did you know that we have over 300 classes? Right now we have 340. There's 70 more that we're working on. Each class is self-paced, and we have some classes that are video, some that are text, some that are audio, and the classes are written by different authors, including me. I actually wrote 2 of the history classes. I have a history degree. I wrote the Civil Rights Movement and the Native American Introduction. We also have a lot of forms and articles about special needs, about Charlotte Mason, lots of different things like that. We have forms to help with report cards and transcripts, and everything you need for our classes are online. We don't have any extra books to buy. We have math and history, language arts, science, art, music, foreign language, Bible, and more. And we're going to talk about World Book here in just a minute, but first of all, have you seen our scope and sequence? It is a great resource, so if you're unsure about what to teach and when to teach it, we provide you with a list of what is generally taught and when it's taught. So you can read through, for instance, the 4th grade, what a 4th grader needs to know, and then we provide you links on our site of what we actually teach and where to find it. So you can search by subject or you can search by grade. Also, we have a large video library for the whole family of lots of videos. We have Bible videos and preschool videos. We see drive-through history. That's one of my favorite ones. And we have science videos in the World Book, tons of preschool videos, lots of really cute ones, animated characters and cartoon characters, and ones that actually teach Bible stories. And so, yes, I did say we had World Book. Did you know that the encyclopedia that we used to have when we were kids that took up the whole bookcase in our house, well, it's online now, and you have access to that through our website. This is a $250 value. It's included in our membership for schoolhouseteachers.com, and you have access to 10 libraries. And this has all ages. It has guides on how to do research. There are articles with bright pictures. There are interactive games for children. There are timelines and ebooks and more. Tons of stuff. Right now, for schoolhouseteachers.com, we're offering a sale. If you use the coupon code, it's $9.95 a month, and that's the limited membership. That's preschool through 8th grade. And the ultimate membership, if you use the coupon code SCARECROW for $10.95 a month, that is for the preschool through 12th grade. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you've had a great evening, and let us know if you have any questions. You can always find me on Facebook on our schoolhouseteachers.com Facebook group. And I do some Facebook Lives a couple times a week. And you can join the Facebook group and come see us again. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening.